people don't mind kind of just giving a little bit about themselves. Amy, do you want to start off?
My name is Amy Fuller, and I have worked for UH in Manoa. This is my second year that I'm starting. Before that, I worked in Kirksville, Missouri, teaching general chemistry for 7 years.
Fabulous. All right. So Daniel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I came here, postdoc in Seattle. I came here as a at UW. I came here as a postdoc in 2008, and then off and on teaching at the junior colleges, working for a small storage company, then taught a few classes here, and then have been faculty for I think 6 or 7 years. I'm not sure. It kind of blends together after the years roll by.
All right. Fabulous. Chester.
Hi, I'm Chester Dabalos. So I'm an instructor here at UH Hilo. So I teach general chemistry. Prior to this appointment, I was at UH Manoa, where I taught introductory and analytical chemistry for 5 years.
Wonderful. Lei, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lei Wang. I'm a faculty at Hawaii Pacific University. I joined HPU in 2012. I've been teaching general chemistry for 8 years.
Nice. Excellent. Mark, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been at BYU Hawaii. This is my 16th year. I teach general chemistry every year, and I also teach inorganic and physical biochemistry. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for volunteering or having your arm twisted hard enough to join us today. We got 5 wonderful professors and myself. I'm Dan Scott. Taught at BYU Hawaii now for about 11 years, and I also teach our analytical class as well. So the hope is that all of us will be able to share about what we're doing under these certain conditions, right, to try to improve chemistry learning. And we're all from Hawaii, so this is one perspective. We're hoping to do other episodes here where we're including not just people from Hawaii, but maybe possibly internationally. So could you guys just give us a rundown of what your institution is doing or what they're allowing or how you're interacting with your students at this time? So Mark, you want to tell us?
Yeah. So at BYU Hawaii, I think we're kind of the odd man out because we are all online. The administration decided over the summer that with all of the international students that we have, that it would just be safer to switch everything to online. So everything. There's no in-person meetings whatsoever, including labs, which is terrible, but we're getting by.
And we should note also that this began at the end of winter, actually.
Yeah, that's true. Back in March.
So the last part of winter and spring. So we had a couple of go-rounds, which really was helpful in making decisions about this fall. All right, Lei, you want to tell us what's going on there at HPU?
Sure. At HPU, since March of this year, we switched to online classes. And then for this semester, we planned to start in classroom, but then the case numbers were high. So we started the first 4 weeks online. Right now, I'm teaching general chemistry and introductory chemistry to nursing students. So each class has about 100 students. So what we did is we actually split the 100 students into 2 classes. So one group of students attended Monday class, one group attended Wednesday. So that's for for introductory chemistry. For general chemistry student, we have 100 students. So again, we do half on Tuesday, half on Thursday. Then what I did is I actually had a hybrid mode. So I recorded my lecture videos, put in YouTube, and I asked students to watch the videos before they come to my class. And then on Monday, I meet my students, one group of my students in Zoom. And then we go through some important topics there. Then Wednesday is another half of the class. And then Tuesday and Thursday, the half and half. For the labs, we also split the whole lab into 2 sections. So one section for 1 week, they're gonna come to the real lab to do experiment to the real lab. The other half, they're gonna stay online to learn virtually. And then the next week you take turn. From last week, HPU started to switch back to in-classroom teaching. So last week, our smaller classes, less than 15 students per class, they already went back to the classroom. But at the same time, if the student want to stay online, then the instructor should also have a component to teach it online, as well as in the classroom. For my class, those are big classes. We are switching to classroom this week. So tomorrow I'm going to the classroom to teach. But for students who prefer to stay online, I will keep my Zoom class, virtual class at the same time on while I'm teaching in the classroom. So that's what we are doing here at HPU.
Good. Perfectly. Thank you. Amy, let us know what's going on.
So back in March, we went all online. And then like this semester, we were planning all online for the classes, but in the labs, we were planning on doing that same thing, like half the students in lab, half the students doing an online lab, and then switching the next week. But about 2 weeks before classes started, I switched my class to all online. And then Dan waited like a few weeks into the semester, and then you switched all online, right?
Yeah, we did in-person classes over labs over the summer, and it worked fine. So that's kind of, and I was here doing that. So that's kind of the reason we held on, thinking we could at least do the hybrid or something. But you know, once the numbers kind of goes up and panic ensues, like, yeah.
They were limiting the lab sizes and the class sizes to like a third or a quarter of capacity. And so with labs and so many students, it just was getting almost impossible to figure out how to divide.
Okay, great. Excellent. Chester, how about UH Hilo? What's going on there?
So initially, what we are planning was similar to the approach of HPU, so a half-half or something like that. But of course, I mean, the difficulty with Big Island is that we have fewer hospital beds compared to Oahu, so we have to be very cautious. So what the administration did was to encourage online classes. So for general chemistry, at least we are doing online, and even next semester, the only type of classes that I've known to do face to face are, say for example, the nursing students. But other than that, I mean, everyone is actually encouraged to offer their courses online.
Awesome. All right. So what have you guys found is the greatest challenge teaching during these conditions? And what kind of adjustments have you made to address these challenges?
I'd say it's connecting with your students. Like, even, you know, in a classroom, in a lecture, well, our classes tend to be 100 or up to, I had one 370 one semester. And at least then you see their faces in real time and you chat with them after class. And so you just don't feel as connected with the class. And the emails that you do get, you're not sure if that represents the class as a whole. So I would say that's kind of the most challenging, but there are some upsides. Like, I don't think I mumble, but someone always says that in my evaluations, or that I talk too fast or something. So when they have the lectures recorded, you know, they can't say that they were sick or missed it. It's kind of on a little bit on them now. No excuses when you highlight and say this problem will be on the test, just, you know, rearranged or something. So there's pluses and minuses to it.
Yeah, for sure. Amy?
One thing that I was surprised at, or that I didn't realize was kind of challenging, you know, these guys are first semester freshmen, so a lot of the stuff they've never encountered before. And I wanted to do an online homework program, either ordered through the bookstore or ordered through the actual website. And when students can gather in a classroom, they can ask each other questions and work it out. But when they're sitting by themselves at home, they don't have that opportunity to problem solve amongst themselves. And so there was just like a lot more like emails and trying to get all the students on the same page, whether it was, you know, in the class, or there's around 700 students in lab, in the Gen Chem 1 lab. And, you know, I was the only contact for that. And so it's not like they could just stop and ask someone in the hall. It was, you know, just what's going on. And especially at the beginning where we were switching to online, things were changing. So what they had been told was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
What I did, like the very first classroom, is I ran a breakout session in Zoom, and I gave them a worksheet the day before and just said, hey, we're going to do this in class, don't worry about it. And it was kind of a get to know you for each other so they could talk to each other. But when they came back to the main class, they actually had problem solved with themselves. So they had answered each other's questions on how to sign up for the homework system in the book and stuff like that. you know, I did the breakout session so they could just talk to each other, thinking, hey, you're in this together, but it actually helped outside questions that I wasn't quite aware of.
Yeah, so making that connection was more valuable than you thought it would be, right? I mean, it turned into a lot more. That's great. Mark, do you want to talk about your greatest challenge or?
Sure. But I think we should first point out that there's some pretty big differences in scale among the general chemistry courses that we're teaching. I mean, I have 109 students this semester spread into 2 sections, which is pretty big for us, but it's nowhere near 700. So that's very different challenges involved. Anyway, I think the 2 biggest challenges for me, are first of all, just having that student engagement. I love being in the classroom and I love interacting with the students one-on-one and making them laugh and just getting to know their names and faces, and it's so much harder over a digital format. And the other thing is our labs. We have to do all online labs, and I just really despise them. They're not the same. You're not learning the same things, and I just feel really bad that our students are going to go for maybe an entire year without actually being able to go into the lab and do anything. They're not going to know how to use a balance or a pipette or anything like that, because in the virtual lab you just click on it and
Before you fly a plane, they don't just let you use the simulator the whole time, right?
right?
Yeah. Who knows what kind I just keep telling people this is going to be an asterisk year, and that med schools are going to know, everybody's going to know, grad schools are going to know. These guys don't know what they're doing at these slices of their education. Hopefully we don't get a whole bunch of malpractice stuff, but okay. Well, thanks, Mark. Chester, you want to talk about your biggest challenge?
Yes, because of privacy issues, I could not actually ask the students to show their faces. I mean, during the lecture. So I feel very deprived of the actual, classroom environment, because I could no longer see their facial expressions. So as instructors, we always depend on this, nuances in students' faces, whether they're getting it or not. Now, I mean, you don't know. So I always tell it's just like, throwing darts in the dark room. And I also feel deprived because I could no longer share my jokes because I don't know how they are reacting. So yeah. So in order to address that issue, what I try to do is I set up a time aside from the lecture. So I call it the open forum, by which the students could ask questions freely without any pressure. And then it's where I tell them, I mean, which part of the solutions are they missing. So yeah, I mean, I really, as the other professor said, I really lack that, that personal touch. Sometimes I feel that I completed the lecture, but I feel empty sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, completely understood. Yeah, great. All right, Late.
I think my challenge is the time pressure. In a regular class, I would meet my students 3 times a week. And then what I like to do is in each class, in each 1 hour, I like to cover 2 or 3 topics very slowly and in detail and with many examples. But right now I record my lecture, and then in the real time, I meet the student 1 hour and 15 minutes each week. So I feel like when I record a long lecture, my student told me like they are very overwhelmed right now by the online learning. So I don't want to put too many things online. But then in the Zoom virtual class, when I teach them, I feel it's not enough for me to cover all these important topics. So that's my struggle right now. So what I did so far is I'm trying to cover the most important topics in great detail in my Zoom virtual class. So that's my challenge.
Well, that sounds like a good approach. That does sound like a way to get the students to recognize those important topics. And that's a huge issue. I mean, I think all of us have probably recognized that the timing of things is completely different online. When you make a half-hour lecture online, it's going to result in not just a half hour's worth of work for the student. It's much more. So here's another question that I really am hoping to get some feedback on, because personally, assessment has really been an issue that I haven't solved yet. What kind of adjustments have you made to kind of assess the students' learning? And that could mean, like, how are we gathering that facial recognition? Oh yeah, I get it. Or how are we actually performing our exams, right? Or in the lab, are we feeling comfortable that we're really assessing those things? So Mark, you want to start us off here?
So I'm still doing my same, essentially, schedule of quizzes and exams for the semester. I give them a quiz every week in lieu of turning in a homework assignment. And then I have exams in the final exam. Last spring, I kind of experimented around with some different options. Proctorio, that's connected to our Canvas online learning system. And I used that for one exam to see how it worked. The students were so freaked out. I just felt like it was not a very fair assessment of them. And so I decided to do something a little bit different this semester. I'm kind of doing an experiment going the other way, because I feel like sometimes our students worry that they're in some kind of police state. We're treating them like we expect them all to be dishonest and cheat all the time. And so my thought is, well, let's go the other way around. I'm going to give them my quizzes and exams just through Canvas online. And I'm just going to tell them, okay, on this quiz, you can't use anything except periodic table and a calculator. And I'm just going to trust that they're going to do it. And I'm trying to kind of empower them and build up trust. And I've talked a bit about former students that I've had who have come back to me after a year and said, oh, I feel so bad. I cheated on this one quiz and I never told anyone. And it's been eating at me all this time. Just trying to help them see that it's not worth it. We'll see how it goes.
You're actually not the first person who I've heard is trying that. Okay, great stuff. Chester.
I think the key thing that we could do so that we won't proctor students or, going to this police state is to format our questions so that they won't be able to Google it. So say, for example, instead of, asking, a standard, what's the percent abundance of, say, this isotope in this, they can always Google it. And even if they don't solve, they could get the numbers straight from the computer. So if we always give them maybe a hypothetical element X or something like that, then they won't be able to, to cheat.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great approach. A couple of years back, my wife actually was taking my class, and that's how I found out. She was in my class, and she said, I was talking to some students, and this is how they solve these problems. And I went online, and it was my take-home exam printed up and solved by people online. And you only had to pay $20 to get the whole thing answered for you. And I called them and said, take that down. And they said, oh yeah, of course. But it was back up really quick. That's a crazy battle. Thanks. That's good stuff. Lei?
What I do is I use a polling device, the Reef polling device. So for example, for students who's taking my virtual Zoom class, I would say, okay, I show them how to assign the oxidation number. Then I will give them one question saying, okay, can you tell me what is the oxidation number of nitrogen in nitrate? From my computer screen, I can see they submitted the answer. Then how many students pick A, so how many people split D and E. Then I would, if I see, say, half student picked A, 30% picked B, 20% picked C, I know that many students do not understand. So I will explain it again. So I kind of using the Reef as my way of getting feedback from students so I know if they understand the topic or not.
Yeah, wow, that's great. That's great stuff. Excellent. Daniel.
I kind of echo the same things. The thing that's come up kind of lately is students that don't have laptops, they have to go to, say, like the library, and there isn't a camera on the desktops in the library, so they're not capable of sharing the screen so you can see their face. But I echo all the same testing things, and I really saw it in the spring when we went online. So I had a student who got out of 200 plus, got the second or third highest score on the first two exams. And then on this third online exam, she scored below average. And I just don't believe that,
Mm-hmm.
So it concerns me, but, there's no perfect way to take the test and assess it. Some students that, could have 2 or 3 screens out and have their friends helping them, or, each one of you Google the first 5 problems of the test. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no perfect way to do it.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been one of the things that's kind of run my preparation, because you can't expect students, because they're this far away from complete revolt, right? They could just say, and they would have plenty of right. They would have plenty of right to just say, this is not fair. This is not what I signed up for. I want all my money back, or whatever. So great. Amy.
I guess I have kind of a non-traditional approach to the exams. Originally, what I wanted to do was get rid of the exams and just do like a point-based. If they jump through these hoops, then they could get like a specific grade whether they jump through it, right? Because the goal is to learn. But I chickened out at the end because there's 300 students, and if that goes wrong, like it would go really wrong. So I went back to my original schedule with 3 exams and then a homework assignment due each week. And what I told them for the exams is it's open book, open notes, open internet, but I asked them not to use another person. And I figured that way, like, if people are going to Google, it gives the super honest ones a chance to compete with those who aren't going to be as honest, and it puts more people at the same level playing field. I also make sure that each question isn't Googleable. Like, say for question number 2, I actually write 3 different questions and they are worded exactly the same, but maybe a decimal place is moved, which means when the students randomly go through, they will get one of those 3 questions. And if they cheat, then their answer will show up as one of the other questions. And I can tell because the decimal place is moved. But the students actually really appreciate having that freedom to Google and look things up and have their notes. And I think them writing notes down and getting ready helps prepare them.
I kind of followed Amy's lead or idea of allowing them open access to the internet, to book, whatever, when they're taking their quizzes or exams. But I augmented the workload, made the workload really large so that they're solving a lot of problems. The real tool that I kind of added in to see if they're cheating, and this is really something that we can do because, as Mark mentioned, our smaller class sizes, I have them sign up for a 5-minute office hour meeting twice a week. And they fill out an office hour form that basically tells me what questions they feel like they can answer. And then I give them a quiz. I give them a quick quiz right there and just say, hey, solve this problem for me. All right, let's go to our next question. So what are we doing to promote student engagement in your classes? Chester?
When I was a part-time faculty at Chaminade, I actually used Kahoot. It's an online quiz, so you just give them the passcode and then let them do it. You're going to see, I mean, how many students got this correct or not. So yes, another form of giving quizzes is quizzes.
How do you spell that?
Quizzizz, I think.
Okay, quizzes. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel?
I'd say the one thing that I've found that works, I don't know, it promotes, but it kind of stops other students from engaging a little bit. But like, so if someone sends me an email about just a question, I take that question, I put it in PowerPoint, then grab figures and I solve it. And then I make a video of that and then I send it out to the whole class so that everyone gets the benefit of when a student asks a good question. That promotes it for your interaction with that student. They feel more comfortable. But then I think just like a normal class setting, some of the other ones sit back and let the good students kind of do the work for them or something. But it also has helped now from spring and summer that I already have those useful, work there. And if you're teaching the same class, more information I don't think can hurt necessarily. So
Yeah, great. Amy?
I originally tried the breakout room. So I would make like a small worksheet the night before and email it out. And then I would send them off into the breakout room to do the worksheet. And then when they got back, I would go through it. And what I noticed is the class was like really quiet on Zoom. There wasn't much chatting. There wasn't much even talking or asking questions. But after the breakout rooms, like they would get back and just be like chattery and talkative, not only to each other, but just with me and chatting and asking questions. And then today I actually signed up for Kahoot also. I started a professional account so I could have so many students. And the students were more engaged doing the Kahoot quiz today than they've been in a long time. They just loved it. And the chat was like going crazy. And I was able to answer questions as we went and kind of see where they were.
Yeah. Great stuff. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, this is someplace I'm looking for some good ideas. One thing that kind of makes it hard for us here is that we're not actually allowed to require any real-time class. So I have a live Zoom class once a week, but I can't require the students to be there. So I've set it up so that it's recorded, and then I post the link to the recording later that day. So in a class of 55, I'll have 20 students who are there live.
And that's because of the time zones, right, Mark?
Right.
It's just not feasible for people to wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
or 11:30 at night.
China, Taiwan, Tahiti, Myanmar, Korea, and then I've got students in East Coast. So it's a huge time zone difference.
One of the things I've done too, Mark, is I've set up a GroupMe group. And so it's like an app that's basically a chat room. And so I send out a link. The students are really familiar with it, and most of the time I just monitor it and I'll reply sometimes. But Yeah, and then another one, I talked about GroupMe this semester, and my students said, oh, we've already set up a Discord. And again, I just monitor it. The students have set it up for all of the Chem 161 classes. They have different chat rooms for different professors. So I can see what they're saying about all the professors and all the different lab sections and what's due and when it's due. And they actually set up their own rules on this. And I told them they can't share screenshots of answers, but they can show screenshots of handwritten work that they've done. One of the moderators, who's just a student, said, okay, Fuller's exam's about to start. I'm shutting off the chat room because we're not allowed to talk to each other. And so they kind of monitor themselves that way too. So it's been kind of cool to watch them interact. And like if they get way off topic, then I comment. But for the most part, I just stay quiet and watch them interact.
So the GroupMe chat, do they have a specific time that it's open, or is it just always going and you just kind of watch it?
It's just always open. So they just go to the app and we'll ask questions, and it's almost like text messaging. So they're text messaging each other. And I found students would message me through that because an email is more formal. But if they're like, oh, let me get out my phone and text, it just kind of it brings me into their communication world rather than them coming to mine.
That's great. Yeah, that's really good. I've become familiar with GroupMe just recently for a couple of other things, soccer practice, that sort of stuff. But that's a really good tool. I think that there's no reason everybody shouldn't have that as an option. Nobody has to use it, but even if you just make 2 or 3 students find each other, that's really great. I want to say one thing. My wife would be upset with me if I didn't bring this up, but in the end of the winter, as Mark said, when we went online, we couldn't require students to attend. I did classes and I said, hey, you don't need to attend. I'm going to record these classes. You can watch them later. I had a class of 30 students, got 25 people attending the first week, and then slowly went down. And we're down to 3 at the last week. And I was trying to engage the students. I would tell them, the order that we see our names over on the right as far as attendees, that's the order that I'm going to ask questions, right? But it was really time consuming. I would say, can you tell me the oxidation number? And pause. That's for me, right? Yeah, okay, that's for you, yeah. Yeah, I think it's, so it was just too much time and we were not getting through material. And too many times students would turn off their mute and come back on and they were listening to some video or watching some other class or something in the background, right? Just demoralizing, right? Just frustrating. And so I thought something else has to happen here, especially because, well, they're not coming to the live classes. I need to provide classes online so that they can watch them. So I started teaching my son, my 9-year-old, and I thought, okay, he's going to be the student for everybody else. He's going to ask the most basic of questions. And we did that for a month until he started falling asleep during the classes. And that didn't work. I got a volunteer. He was an older gentleman, and we tried that as well. It came to about chapter 4, and he wasn't doing any homework, which I told him, I think that if you don't do the homework and we just kind of press forward through it quickly, then you'll be able to retain some stuff. But nope, that wasn't working out. And so I got another person to help me out. And I used this guy here, and he knows all the answers and he knows all the questions. And he's in a different webcam. I say, do you know the oxidation number for nitrogen? In what compound? Right. So, and he just always has a witty little thing to say, and he knows all my jokes are bad and he makes fun of them. And I don't make fun of all your jokes. And everybody knows it's me. It's not like it's a secret or anything like that. But people have really enjoyed it. And it makes things light always, and it allows them, and a lot of students have said, he always asks the question that I was about to ask because, we've heard him hundreds of times. Anyway, I definitely want to answer this question here as far as, is there anything that you think you're going to keep? Have you found anything over this experience that you think you're going to use moving forward, regardless of the pandemic condition?
Yeah, so before this pandemic, I was actually really afraid of, even taking photographs of myself. But during this time, what I do is I actually carry out the experiment in the lab and take a video of myself. So my wife was saying, oh, maybe you could be a blogger, one day, because, I have already collected a lot of videos. And, this is my my most simple way, I mean, not to deprive them about the beauty of chemistry in action. So I go to the lab, I mean, I do the experiment and, I just take a video, then take photographs, I mean, of all the reaction tubes and just show it to them. So this is the, at least what I've learned during this pandemic is not to be afraid of the camera anymore.
That's great. That's great. Lei?
During this online learning part, I recorded a lot of topics, chemistry topics. So I think in the future I will make these things available for my future students. Because if they don't understand my class, if they miss something in my class, then they always have something to refer to, watch again. So I think that's something I will keep.
Great. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's a stockpile of questions answered really well in a visual way is a great thing to have. Daniel.
Well, kind of the same thing that you guys just said there, but I think the most valuable thing that might come is like UH is so, I don't know how you guys are, but we're so behind the times with like doing things with like everything still has to be on a piece of paper that gets signed and sits on someone else's desk here. And this is forcing the university, like purchases and all this stuff. I can remember when I was in grad school and stuff 10, 15 years ago, schools on the mainland had already gone away with paper forms, and we're finally being forced to do it. And I know it's outside the classroom, but I think it's going to force the university to streamline and do things that should have been done a long time ago, really. It's just a waste of paper and time to have actual individual people sign something and walk it over to another office, have it sit there for a day or two or whatever.
Good. Yeah. It's interesting how the bureaucracy begins to drag things down when changes need to happen quick. Hopefully, I mean, I don't think there's many fans out there of bureaucracy. Hopefully we'll be able to streamline a lot more as well as time goes on. Amy?
I guess when I first started with online, I didn't really want to run like a full Zoom class. I just thought that, all the students were moving to Zoom so quick that I didn't want to do it. Like, why would they want to sit in front of, watch me talk for an hour and 15 minutes? But what I've noticed, I did it this semester, and the students were actually like a lot more excited to be like with that one-on-one contact where I'm like responding to them and they can ask questions. And so I think I've learned that the live online classrooms are valuable. The Kahoots are valuable. The break rooms are valuable, not to everyone at once, but you have to use a lot of different little techniques to reach people and mix things up just to kind of keep them interested.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary right there. Is a lot of different techniques, a lot of different ways to cater to as many students as are willing to interact with those opportunities. Okay, Mark, anything you want to talk about that you might want to keep with you after this experience?
Yeah, I'll definitely make my classes more of a hybrid experience than they were before. Just kind of, I think I'm learning more of the value of that in-class time. It's really precious time, and the more we can use that time to have small groups working, interaction with the students, and solving problems together, and put all the other little detailed stuff that they can get off of a little video or a written explanation. Leave that to them.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate everything that is being done. I really appreciate the learning that has taken place for myself, and hopefully you guys have also learned a little bit. And I sure hope that we can distribute this to other professors and try to help them out as much as we can. And I think that the American Chemical Society has a lot to offer. I don't know that we know, as a local section, the best way to offer it. Interacting with each other, though, I think increases the likelihood of us finding the best way or the many avenues that will contribute to improving student learning and improving our understanding of how to present to students and stuff. So thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Cool.
All right. Don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you later.
Thank you, everyone.